Welcome to the Shit Creek Survivor Show, where we openly discuss our stories of getting stuck up shit creek without a paddle. We share the good, the bad, the ugly, and really what I love is the funny. But most importantly, we discuss how we got out of our own situations and out of our own shit creek and get moving in the right direction. And the reason we are here together is to share these stories so that people know that they're not alone, first off, as cliche as that sounds, but two, I love Dennis's term to put more tools in the tool belt. What worked for you may not work for me. What worked for me may not work for you. But what if we get a whole bunch of people talking about it? I bet we can get a lot of tools for the tool belt, right? So Shit Creek Survivors is about sharing stories, finding support, and realizing that even when things feel like a total mess, there's always a way forward. I'm joined again by my former police partner and friend, Dennis Kaufman. How are we doing today, Dennis?
That's me. That's me. How you doing?
And today we have a special guest who's going to share their story of getting stuck up shit creek. I have Randy here with us. Welcome, Randy.
Hello, Randy.
Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. You're our first guest.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate it. Wanting to really wanting to do this myself at some point in my life, but I just never had the platform. So I appreciate
Yeah.
you giving me the opportunity to do that.
I'm glad you're following through with it then too. If you're feeling it, the pull for it, now you're following through with it. That's a great first step. So I applaud you for that.
I got goosebumps. It's so cool to see you again. All right, so let me give everyone a quick history on who Randy is to us. So we know Randy from law enforcement in the St. Louis area. We worked for the same department for a period of time. I actually worked on the same shift as Randy, and we would do a lot of calls together. So I'm so happy to see you. And life has been so crazy. And I would say over the last, now it sounds like 13, we've been removed from one another. We've kind of
Yep.
both we've gone on our own journeys, and somehow we've ended up back in the same place. And I think that's freaking amazing. It's like what? You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Big as the world is, sometimes it's pretty darn small.
Man, and I tell you what, like, Cameron, you know, you kind of said it earlier. We were on the same calls together. Like, you were my right hand man. Like, every call you had, I made sure I was backing you up, and like I kind of felt like I was like wanted to be like your little teacher because you were newer on the department.
You were.
You know, yeah, no, you were like my best bud. After my other best bud left for another department, you became like him to me. So,
Well, I
and
appreciate that.
yeah, and Kaufman, I didn't really get to know you that well because I think we were on opposite shifts, like complete
Yeah.
opposite shifts. So
During
you
the
know,
part of that. Well, we hung out a little bit outside of work a couple times.
yeah, a little bit, but like I didn't, get that work relationship.
We all went on the flip trip together.
Oh, man, Jesus.
What a blast of a past that is, huh?
Oh, absolutely.
That was a fun, yeah, that was fun and kind of awkward. It's weird when you got command staff there with you. You know what I mean? So you're like, what's appropriate on the river? And anyone from, who's done float trips knows what we're talking about. Uh, so we're going to talk about, or Randy's going to share with us, we all have our own shit creeks. And the truth is we have a lot of times multiple shit creeks happening at the same time, different stories that are paralleling one another. But there usually comes a time in life where we get into a situation, and in my personal situation is like when I hit rock bottom and I'm just like, you know what? I am going to make a commitment to myself to get better. It has nothing to do with anyone else. I am going to not go out like this. I will go out trying. And somehow that turned into me getting back up and now helping other people. And Randy's doing basically the same thing. So, Randy, I'd like to give you the floor. I mean, the last time like we saw one another, we were working, and
It was
there
Halloween
were a
weekend.
couple of
Let's just say
there,
that.
there was some, and if you would clarify, because a lot of us, even the people on the department, we didn't get the whole story. You know what I mean? And you kind of find out that's the way law enforcement works. You know what I mean? You sort of, if there is someone injured, you separate them from the pack, and then you assess them, and then you introduce them back to the pack. It's awkward, I know. Randy, I'll give you the floor. So we were working, and then what happened?
Yeah, so, my demise was Halloween weekend, 2011. I don't know if you remember, but I had just purchased a house out in, South County,
Yeah.
and, just had a beautiful girlfriend. Life was great. I couldn't have asked for a better life at that point. But, um, I let alcohol kind of take over and really kind of screw up my life. And that's what happened on Halloween weekend. So, little backstory before this, I guess,
Event.
this night. Yeah. Like I said, I had just purchased a house. I started dating this gal, and then I met her from going down to the bar. I've known this girl for years, right? Like, I mean, probably since 2006 when I moved to St. Louis. Being fresh, new, out and proud, being gay, we would go down to the bar down in the Grove, and that was kind of like my safe spot, and that's how I met this girl. But she was always dating somebody else, and it was kind of a really established relationship that she was in. And then somehow they broke up, and we were able to get together, and just kind of starting a relationship. And I decided that night, because it would be funny for me to dress up as the fun sponge, which is somebody
Fun sponge.
yeah, like, somebody who soaks up all the fun. Like, yeah, so it's actually kind of a funny story how that all came to be, because I apparently that was my nickname that I didn't know I had, that people made fun of me about. Because one year during a float trip, I was with somebody, with an ex-girlfriend, and we got into an argument, and we were sitting there just like kind of, having like a conversation. And then somebody from this other group came over and was standing there, and I didn't know what was going on, but she just kept saying some stupid ass shit, like, as I'm here trying to have a serious conversation with my girlfriend, and she's right in my face. And then finally, when she told me to turn around, she had a big ass dick. Like, I guess she found it on the river of a float trip, and
Okay, so not a real one.
no,
Okay.
like a strap on or something. And I guess she was just standing there beside me with this dick
Okay.
in my ear, and I had no idea. And I turn around, and then I was annoyed because I was arguing here, and then
Yeah.
everybody was watching behind what was going on. And that's
Yeah.
how I became the fun sponge, because I told her to get away and I didn't laugh about it. So I became like the butt of the joke and became essentially the fun sponge.
Well, you were never a fun sponge whenever I hung out with you.
I know, but
Yeah.
apparently this was a nickname that I apparently had for years. And my girlfriend at the time, when this Halloween happened, was in that group that used to make fun of me for years.
Mhm.
So we thought it would be funny, now that she's dating the fun sponge, that I would dress up as the fun sponge, because all those people that were in that group that were at
Yeah.
that float trip were going to be out that night, right?
Okay. Okay.
So, it was just going to be kind of a funny, like I don't know, whatever.
I get it.
You're
Anyway,
I get
embracing
it.
it. I like it. You're embracing it. You're going to go with it. And,
yeah,
I mean,
you know,
that should remove the stigma, if anything, we'd think.
exactly. Like, fuck you guys. I'm the fun sponge and I'm proud of it. It is what it is, but I'm
Yeah.
really not the fun sponge. But anyway, so we went to, what's it called? Dollar Tree, and I bought like $60 worth of sponges, and I just hot glued them all over to my body, and I had like these fake sponge mittens on my hands, and I had this hat with sponges on it, and I was holding a sign that said "No Fun Zone," and I go down to the bar, and we're doing the Morgan Ford pub crawl, and I'm having a ball, like no problems, just chilling, having a good night with my girlfriend, right? Well, then we go from Morgan Ford to this lesbian bar that I have been going to for years, and where I met my girlfriend, because
Right.
she used to be a bartender down there. And we get to this bar, and it's the end of the night, it's closing time, and they kick you out. Well, I had to go to the bathroom before I left. I was going to go outside. So I went to the bathroom, and I come outside, and right outside of the bathroom, there was these two girls that were like they were going to jump me, kind of like, talking shit. And these are two girls that I know from the gay scene, because it is very small in St. Louis, and happens to be like friends with my girlfriend's ex-girlfriend. So a lot of lesbian drama, stupid, ignorant lesbian drama, right? You know? So I got out of the bathroom and they're talking shit and I'm talking shit. And then they go down the stairs and I go down the ramp. We meet in the middle, kind of by the front door. And mind you, I'm in this fun sponge costume. Everybody's dressed up because it's Halloween, right? So we're talking smack, and next thing you know, this girl comes out of nowhere who wasn't even involved in this conversation or in this argument I'm having with these two other girls. She just interjected herself. Had nothing to do with anything. She just didn't like me because of who I was dating. So she gets in and she starts talking shit, and next thing you know, and mind you, I'm shit tanked. I mean, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. I'm shit tanked. No doubt about it. But she gets in the middle of it, and I don't know, people were holding her back, and they let her go. And I just naturally slugged her ass. Like, you know, she's coming at me. I'm going to get you before you get me. And knock her to the ground. And then next thing you know, I get picked up and thrown out in the middle of Manchester Road, and a whole brawl ensues outside. Like, it was chaos. Mass chaos. Next thing you know, my fun sponge mittens are flying over here, flying over there, and, you know, it's just chaos. You know, she tries to go to the police. The St. Louis City PD was sitting there, you know, it was Halloween weekend, big night. They work overtime down there, secondary.
Yeah.
She goes up to a city officer who happens to be one of my friends. Didn't know that she knew me. And she's basically talking shit or saying that I assaulted her and trying to file a police report and get me fired right then and there. She thought I worked for that department, but I didn't. So my friend, who's the officer, ended up stalling out enough for her to leave and for me to get out of there. So we leave. Mind you, this happened on a Saturday night. We worked midnight shift. We were on midnights that night, you know, that round, right? So we had what was it? I can't remember. It was Friday, Saturday, Sunday off. It used to be Friday, Saturday, Sunday off. I'm like worrying, you know, because I did punch this girl in the face, got out of control, and I'm like panicking, like, oh God, is my department going to find out what happened? You know, so I'm in full panic mode for the whole day, the whole Sunday.
Right.
I hear nothing about it, and nobody from the department. I roll up to the squad room that Monday night, and when I tell you, when I walked into that room, there was everybody and their mother in the squad room, like detectives, other shifts, like more than normal, right?
Right.
And I just knew, like, you can feel the tension. It was so thick in there. Like, everybody knew but me. Like, it was wild. So I walk into the room, and I'm just like, oh my God. Like, I just felt it. And I went to my little mailbox to get my reports and do everything. And I remember a lieutenant came in, and, you know, rest in peace, but he came in and was like, you know, Roberts? I'm like, yeah. He's like, follow me. So I'm like, okay. So I went to go put because I had my duty bag and then I had my workout bag. And I went to put my stuff down. He says, no, grab your stuff. And then he pulled me into his office, and the first thing that came out of his mouth was, you're suspended with pay pending an internal investigation for an assault that occurred off duty. The first thing that I could say was her name. And I said, are you fucking kidding me? This girl just got done like filming a reality TV show. So she thought she was hot shit, right? So she apparently came up to the department, I guess earlier that day on Monday, from what I understand, with two people that were, I guess, were her witnesses. They filed a formal complaint saying that I assaulted her for no reason. She was bartending that night. I punched her for no reason. You know, just lies, right?
Right.
It had other people sign reports and saying all this other horrible stuff about me. I never got to see these reports, so I don't know what was said. But apparently she said that I broke her nose and whatever. So they took my badge, my gun, my whole duty, really my duty belt, and sent me home that day.
Okay.
And I just went home and I didn't know what to do. I was told I should call EAP, or not EAP, what is that? The Fraternal Order of Police, or FOP.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, to try to speak to somebody that would represent me for this, because anytime that you're going through an internal investigation or something, you want representation and you want some assistance and some support on what to do. When I called
And
them,
in Missouri, we're not allowed to unionize. So that's our one resource is to reach out to and try to get legal advice on what we should do for whatever situations we're in.
yeah,
I just want to close.
yeah, I didn't know. So I reached out to them, and the guy said, yeah, you know, you can go ahead and let them fire you. And then, you know, we can argue that, but you could be without a job for up to a year and something, and, you know, who knows. But it's like, or you can go ahead and move on to another department and, you know, resign and move on to a different department.
Right.
I'm like, okay, fine. That's, you know, I don't really want to do that because I loved my department and I loved the people I worked with. So I had to come back in. I don't remember if it was the next day or not, but our commanding staff made me come back in. And, you know, I've always been too brutally honest. I don't know, and I'm still to this day, I have no filter. I am who I am. I say it like it is, and I tell the truth, no matter what. Like, I am not a good liar.
Right.
So I didn't have really good advice, so I went in and, you know, I had to follow the directions, and they sent me down into the, like, the investigator room, or, you know, the interrogating room that they had back there.
Interview room.
Yeah.
Interview room, yeah. Give me a piece of paper, or a statement form, and literally had to write what happened. And I wrote myself into trouble. You know, like I said, I didn't have union support. Nobody was talking in department. Nobody talked to me. Like, I reached out to several people and nobody would help me. And so I wrote exactly what happened, explained the whole situation. I did admit to being intoxicated and drinking. So, of course, automatically, officer unbecoming, or be unbecoming of an officer, automatically, right?
Okay.
I spoke to Captain, and I had asked him, I said, you know what, because he said they went down there to the bar and pulled the video.
Okay.
And I asked, I said, well, what was on the video? Can I see the video? They wouldn't show it to me, which I think is kind of bullshit. I feel like they should provide, if they have evidence of something, I should be able to see this. Should I not? Am I wrong on that?
Right.
I don't know. So I asked, I said, well, what was on the video? And he says, well, you know, everybody was in costume, so we couldn't really tell. Like, we could see punches being thrown, but we couldn't see who got hit. So I'm like, oh, so basically you didn't see shit, is, you know, kind of what I'm thinking. Really don't have anything against me other than these people's statements. So that supervisor was like, well, you know, do you have anybody that can support you, or that saw what happened and could be in your favor? Like, I feel like he was trying to, like, help me.
Yeah.
But I was so, like, naive. Just so naive in the whole situation. And I'm like, no, I literally was the last person out trying to go. I was going to the bathroom to leave out the door. Like, all my friends were already outside. So I didn't find out. I asked him, I said, so what is my percentage of staying here? Like, of me getting fired versus me, you know, potentially keeping my job. And he said, well, probably about a 2% chance of keeping your job. And I'm like, well, what should I do? He's like, well, I can't really tell you what to do, but off the record, I would suggest that you would just resign and move on to a different department. Like, okay. So I went home. I think they gave me like a week or something to really make that decision or continue on their investigation or whatever it was. But I drafted up a resignation letter and I had to bring it back in. or I brought it in and formally resigned on November 15th. So that this happened all on October 31st, so Halloween. I resigned
Just a
November
little over
2nd.
2 weeks later.
It was very quick.
Yeah.
And I felt like they were pushing me out the door because they were going through the hiring process, right? At that same time, because we were down in officers, so they were hiring people. So this gave them another reason to hire another person. And there was this girl that was being hired, and I think y'all know who I'm talking about, who's, now a lieutenant there, or I think maybe probably a captain by now, but she ended up basically taking my job. It was very quickly. And, she's a really pretty girl, and she's beautiful and, not gay. So that department was really notorious for being like good boys club and like, if you're not sucking or fucking, you're not in type thing. At least that's how I experienced there. It didn't matter how hard you worked or how good you were at your job. Like, if the superiors didn't like you for whatever reason, you were on the outs, and I was never going to go anywhere in that department, in my opinion.
Okay.
Because of that, because I wasn't part of the good old boys club and whatnot.
Yeah.
Was that like the bottom though? I mean, you kept going. You said that's the beginning of your demise. You had more to go to, didn't you? You went through.
Absolutely.
I mean, I don't want to speak for you, but I didn't know any of that part. I knew some of the other parts that you haven't got to yet.
Yeah.
It does speak to in law enforcement, like what we were saying, like we did not know what was going on as soon as they pulled you away. You know what I mean? Immediately there's a barrier placed between. And it sucks because, like, I found out being that individual who's being pushed to the side, you're not getting advice. Like, it's almost like they give the impression that you're being taken care of over here, but it's more of a look, more of like, we've got this under control kind of deal. So I'm sorry that you were going through that and that you felt so isolated in that moment. And I'm imagining that isolation probably took you down more of a rabbit hole because that's what it did for me. Because I started doubting myself. I started doubting, all kinds. There was so much anger, so much rage. What did you experience when you were going through that?
Well, to be honest with you, like, I felt really abandoned from my people. And I felt that, because I breathed that job. Like, I loved that job. I was passionate about it, and I thought I was good at it.
Yeah, you worked your ass off.
Fuck yeah. And, I was like, how could, yeah, I fucked up. I fucked up real bad, like, in my personal life, but not my work life.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I don't recall you ever doing anything off the handle or anything anywhere close to being inappropriate on the job in any way, shape, or form. Good reports, good arrests, good traffic stops, all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. So it's like, I felt like, goddamn, like, you can just dispose of me that quick, and I shouldn't blame this but I feel like it was because they had somebody prettier lined up that they wanted to hire. And fuck, really, to be honest with you, that they'd let me go. That's how I felt. That's how I interpreted that in that moment.
Yeah. It's also, I wanted to bring, before you go too far past it, I wanted to say, for being such a small community with the gay scene, like you said, it's really small, tight knit, you'd think they'd be more supportive of each other. Like, even if an accident happened, you think, like, like, that's like another little brotherhood, sisterhood type of environment. You feel like they all know what you're going through as a gay person in St. Louis. They go through it too. Why wouldn't they want to build each other up more? So I'm a little shocked by that, but and that's unfortunate too. But maybe they have a lot of growing up to do.
Well, like I said, it is a small scene. So for her to come at me like that and really, instead of just like should have come to me, like, and talk to me and why come to my job? That's my life. That's my livelihood. That's everything. I was a total douchebag, percent. Back in my day, like I did a lot of really stupid shit, and that one night at the Halloween was not like my demise was coming prior to that. So there was other things that I did prior to that night that gave the department ammo against me. But they couldn't use that ammo because they couldn't use it against me because it wasn't on record. Okay. So before Halloween happened, when I first came to that department, I'm kind of circle back here. So when I got hired at 22 years old with this department, before I even graduated college, I got this job, right?
Wow.
First big kid job, got money, power. I'm just discovering myself on who I am as far as being gay. And I'm coming into this new career. And immediately when I walked in there or got to that department, like I was told, I had this really piece of shit car that I wasn't nice enough to be on the parking lot. That was like the first week of me being at that department. Like I had to change who I was. I had to sell my car to get a new car that was good enough to be in that department parking lot. I had an officer who was blowing me up and borderline harassing me, trying to get me to fuck him.
I'm sorry about
In
that.
the department?
It wasn't Kaufman, okay?
I throw a little humor in here.
Yeah, no,
It's
it
part of
wasn't
my
Kaufman. But there was an officer on that department who is known for not being very happy.
I think you know
I was confused. I was confused on who you were talking about until you just said that. Now I know exactly who you're talking about.
So him and his best friend were like immediately trying to schmooze their way in and trying to, whatever. And I did fall trap to that because I felt pressured by him. And we did end up hooking up. And it actually kind of saved my ass the first time that I really got in trouble. So not a good person. There was times when I was off duty, but he was not off duty, and we would be doing whatever we were doing. Very inappropriate and very, he could have gotten fired for what he was doing, right?
Yeah.
So, like I said, I had some other things that happened to me that led up to my ultimate demise. And one of them was, Pride weekend. So Pride is always and it was, so Halloween happened in October. So June was a couple months prior to that, right? So in June, I went out to this gay bar because, again, everything negative happened to me in my life is something to do with this alcohol, right? So go to the gay bar, and it's Pride weekend, having a great night, and I met these people, and it was the end of the night. They're like, hey, let's go to the strip club. I'm like, heck yeah, let's do it. So I went to the strip club, and I went to the one all the way out, oh my God, off 64, Washington Park area, not the one like east side, like right here. It was kind of a little farther drive, right?
I have no idea what you're talking about. I've never been there.
Okay, fine.
I'm kidding.
Okay, so that one. So I've never, that was my first time at this one, and I'm following these people. I'm like, God damn, where are you taking me, right? So I'm not familiar with the area at all, period. So I go there, and mind you, I am drunker as shit, like driving drunk, I'm a police officer, doing all the things, being a hypocrite, all the things that I'm arresting people for, and just being not a good person. And so I go to the east side, and it's kind of a wild story. I ended up, getting pulled up on stage, and they were taking my clothes off, and then a stripper went to go try to take my underwear off, and next thing you know, I tried to stop her, and then I headbutted her, and then she had a bloody nose, and I tried to say sorry, and then I got kicked out of the bar. It was like 6 o'clock in the morning, right? And it's daylight. It was like a Varsity Blues situation. I had to be at the downtown parade at 11 o'clock. I was meeting some friends at 10:30. So it is 6 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday, right? I'm like, I need to go home and I need to sleep like at least an hour or two before I rage again.
No, rally time. It's time to rally.
I was rallying.
Get an energy drink, some more vodka, coffee. Get over there. Don't stop.
So, Do you guys remember my car that I had? It was a Toyota Celica.
Okay.
Red Toyota Celica. And my license
I remember your little
plate
crotch
said
rocket.
Cuff'em. My license plate said Cuff'em, CUFF
Oh, yeah.
hyphen EM.
Yeah.
Well, I still have those, by the way. So that was the car that I had with my Cuff'em license plates. And I'm leaving East St. Louis, and I lived in Kirkwood at the time. So all I legit had to do was go down 44, like straight down 44, or 64 to 44. Well, somehow I got lost, and I ended up all the way on 70. So like I went completely around St. Louis the opposite direction, and I'm in St. Anne territory and by the airport. And remember, they used to patrol that airport real heavy, and it was double fine zone. It was real bad there.
Yeah.
And it's Sunday morning. I'm shit tanked. I'm in my Celica, and I'm rolling because I got to go home and I got to sleep. And I'm doing at least 90 mile an hour down the interstate. No traffic, right?
Right.
Next thing you know, I see an unmarked patrol car, Dodge Charger. And I'm like, fuck it. I hammered that sucker, and I just flew by him. Like, in my license plate saying cuff him, flying by this guy, right?
Yeah, that's not easy to remember.
So, he gets on my ass like that, and I'm like, oh shit, pulled over right away. Like, and then I shit you not, this dude does like the full felony stop on me. Take your, put your hands up, take the keys out, drop it off, walk backwards. And he gets me to the end of my trunk, and he slams me on the back of my trunk, and he handcuffs me. And all I can remember saying, is, I'm one of you, I'm one of you, I'm one of you. Like, and he's like, what are you talking about? I'm an officer. He's like, are you fucking stupid? And he's just, yeah, I'm really fucking stupid, absolutely. But like,
yeah.
So he throws me in the back of the police car, and he's like telling me to tell my department. And I was refusing to tell my department because, I didn't want to get in trouble, obviously. And then I knew what time it was, and it was shift change, because we shift changed at 6:30. And the shift that was changing on was, that happy guy, really funny, happy guy. And that sergeant on that shift fucking hated my guts because he has pulled me several times. He pulled me over before when I was drunk prior to this, that supervisor. Well, come to find out, that supervisor was off that day. Thank fucking God. And the officer that I ended up hooking up with was the acting sarge that day. So he brought one of the other officers. They took one car. They came up and met me. Met the other department. And me and the other officer got in my car. They drove me home as this other officer followed us home. Dropped me off. Brushed under the rug. Right? All because I was, connected with that guy. And he was still trying to pursue, and still trying to fuck me, basically. So the minute that I got into a relationship and stopped that whole thing and said, you know what, this is done. I'm focusing on this. Like, I'm not doing this little thing that I didn't even really want to do anyway.
Right.
And he got pissed. When he got pissed, he started telling everybody what happened. So the department technically knew what happened, but they couldn't do anything about it because it would have screwed over those two officers and the other department that brushed it on the rug. Okay?
Right.
So I basically had a notch under my belt, or I had that notch. That was a big notch on my belt prior to this Halloween thing. And then prior to that sergeant pulled me over for driving intoxicated on my way home.
But at some point you learned your lesson, right?
We're getting there.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm glad that you're admitting, I was stupid and stuff like that. Because this is,
God.
I
was
young and dumb. We've all been young and dumb.
I was not out of my party stage at all.
Yeah.
Like I went straight from college to this career. Like I swear, like I feel like officers should be officers. There should be a 25. Like you should be mature enough at 25 to have that power and that authority to alter somebody's life, right? Granted, with the exception of people going to the military and obviously having that maturity level from doing that.
I wouldn't say that either.
Well, you know what I mean, but like
we partied a lot in the military, I'll tell you. But I get what you're saying.
Yeah, like I to give somebody that much power at 21 years old or 22 is insane. So, but again, I obviously had a problem with alcohol. It's not that I drank it every night. I would just party hard on the weekends. And when I drank, I wasn't drinking just to have social drink. My goal was to get blacked out drunk and have a good fucking time. Like that was, why am I going to spend the money and not like feel the effects of it? You know what I mean? So I didn't know how to do the social drinking. It was just one extreme or the other,
Right.
All or nothing.
Yeah. So like I had been pulled over by the department that the town that I lived in. I got pulled over by them twice, drunk as fuck. Prior to that, they didn't say nothing. I'm sure they spoke to people, but like it never got brought up, and it was kind of brushed under the rug there. Absolutely. So my demise was coming, right? Prior to that, it just took finally that Halloween weekend to really be like, you know what? Yeah, you're out of here. So I have nobody to blame but myself. I used to be so mad at that person that told on me, but I've come to peace with the decisions that I made.
Yeah.
So. But yeah, so after that whole thing, me losing my job, dude, that was rough. I had just bought my house. My relationship was going to shit because I was depressed. Like, I didn't know what to do. So, she didn't know what to do because, like, now,
Right.
like, who wants to be with somebody in a brand new relationship? Who wants to be with somebody who is just depressed and not, doesn't have a job? Like, that sucks. And plus, it's embarrassing because I just lost my job because of going out here. So, and like I said, our community is really small. So,
they all know it.
Traveled amongst the community. So, who wants to be with this idiot? So,
and this is what you were thinking. This is what you were thinking in that moment, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Do you have any sympathy now for where you were? Meaning, in that moment, it almost sounds like you're like, I didn't have a job, I wasn't worth anything, and you felt that way in that moment. But what I've learned by going further in the future is like, that's just where I was. You know what I mean? That's just where I was. And
not who you were.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get to. It wasn't like who I was, but I was projecting it on myself so strong that I believed it. I believed that everybody else believed it. I believed that, those closest to me and all that kind of stuff. Have you had any reflection where you look back at yourself now in that moment and be like, I was just really scared or really like lost or really overwhelmed or anything like that?
Yeah. So my biggest thing was, I have a fear of disappointing people, right? So when I lost my job, I couldn't tell anybody. Like my family, I didn't tell my family because honestly, that was what connected me, especially me and my dad. Like that's what we would talk about, and I didn't want to lose that.
Okay.
So I was trying to find a job quick to replace that job so he didn't have to find out, or nobody had to find out what actually happened. And I was blackballed. That department blackballed the fuck out of me. Like I was going nowhere. Every department that I went to, they wouldn't tell me, I wouldn't get the job because, that followed me. So
yeah.
I spiraled and I was just not in a good headspace. again, it was a big fear of disappointing people, and it led me to the way. Basically, the way I coped with with losing the job was like all I did was work out. I would work out. I would do the P90X, the Insanity, and then I would
Mm-hmm.
run 4 to 7 miles every day. That
Dang.
was that's all I had because I couldn't find a job, and I was too proud to do anything less than to take a security job or
Yep.
something like that, because
Your ego
like
fucks with
that's
you in that
yeah,
regard.
1000%, absolutely. And I had to take a big bite of some humble pie real quick, and it didn't happen until after my whole suicide attempt, because
All of this was
ultimately
this spiral downhill to that.
to that,
And
absolutely,
see, now
yeah.
that's all I really ever knew. Hanging out with you, that happened. It felt like you were going through something mentally, and that's why you had left the department. That's where I come from in knowing that. And I don't think anybody really knew anything differently except for those that were involved in those individual cases that you're talking about. I
So,
don't know
so
that people were
nobody
out there talking about it in any way, shape, or form.
so none of you guys knew that I got into a bar fight and
I don't
got
remember.
fired
I
from
don't
prison.
recall ever hearing that. I recall um, just that you were spiraling out of control a little bit, and then you had a suicide attempt, and try to reach out to you as a friend in that regard. But what can you do? As much as I want to help, I can't. Just try to show some support so you know that somebody's
I
thinking
knew
about you.
that there was trouble. I knew something had happened. Yeah, I knew something had happened. I think I may have even been in the squad meeting, but I think like I didn't know what was going on. It may have been one of those things, like you said, the shift was happening. So like we're coming in to kind of do our shift and they've already made the decision. It sort of seems like now that they were going to pull you out of the room as almost soon as you got there, kind of deal. But they didn't say like, "Hey, everybody, this is what we're doing today." You know what I mean? Like for the shift. I don't know about the sergeant or whatever it may have been. They may have known, but
And remember, we are our own worst critic. So when you're in that moment and you're double doubting yourself and you're really criticizing all your actions, and of course you feel all those fears and anxieties that everybody's talking about you or knows about it, that just adds to it. And you're just going to sit there and cycle it and cycle it and cycle it because you're sitting there in silence, or you're running, or you're trying to drink it silent, or whatever it is, how you're coping with it. That's all you have. But talking to us right now, I hope you can realize that you were your own worst enemy, just like you knew, and nobody, it was personal. Like we weren't personally against you as coworkers or anything like that. And you had some growth that had to happen, and time healed that wound, and time found you into a better place. I hope.
Yeah,
Ray, first off, I got to say again, this is huge that you're sharing this story with us and everybody else because there's somebody out there who needs to hear this right now who's going through it.
Right now,
We're
they're in
not
that
looking to
moment. They're
appear.
in that moment of that cycle. They're in that moment right now, and they feel like there's nobody out there that feels that way. There's nobody else there that can get through it. And if they hear your story and get inspired by it, and it pushes them through it, that fog, and it gets them out, then not only you feel better about getting it off your chest, but then you should feel also good that you've helped at least one person get through it too.
yeah. I mean, like I said, I after that whole situation, I spiraled. I ended up taking, I pulled all because I literally just bought my house, so I had to pull out all my retirement, which was $15,000 that I already had in the 2.5 years, whatever it was that I worked there, or 3 year, I don't know. Uh, I pulled all that money out, and I blew through it in 2 months
Mhm.
because I knew that ultimately I wasn't going to live long. So I started, and that's a real common thing. Like when people are going through that, they'll start giving things away. They'll start
Hmm.
buying things for people, and that's 100,000% what I did. And I spent all of my money. I mean, the girlfriend reaped all the benefits because she got a new laptop. I got new furniture, like all types of stuff that I just did for her. And I'll never forget. November 17th, it was my last day. Like I said, I couldn't get a job. I tried, and I was just going out and I was drinking, and then I went down to the recruiter's office, to the Army recruiter, and was like, well, fuck it. If I can't get a job, then I'll just go into the military. So I had signed up, and I was supposed to go to my, what is that called? Not MEPS.
MEPS, yeah.
MEPS.
The Medical Evaluation Process Center.
Yeah. So I had that lined up. And I didn't really want to do it. Fuck that. I already have my college degree, already how many years in the workforce, and I don't want to do the military, but that's what I felt like was my last option. And I'll never forget, let's see, it was January 23rd, so not long, maybe a month. Christmas happening, and then, yeah. So I went out to Castlewood, the state park out here in the St. Louis area. I used to go out there all the time, and I would run for miles with my dog. And a friend of mine wanted to go on a walk with me, or wanted to walk the trails or whatever. So I went, and this girl had a crush on me, but I wasn't interested, but whatever. So I went on this hiking thing with her. And then after that, I went to my girlfriend's job because she had broken up with me at this point yet. Well, no, actually, take it back. She did break up with me. We were already broken up at this point, but I was still hanging on to that and still being the creep because that's all I had. That was my support system. You know what I mean? So I probably appeared very clingy because I had nothing else, because I didn't tell my family. I didn't tell anybody. I literally had just her. My department abandoned me, and I felt like my friends abandoned me, and all that stuff. So I went to her bar where she was bartending, and I was studying for that MEPS thing, or the ASVAB, whatever it was.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I'm sitting there at the bar, and I'm studying, and I'm getting drunk, and I'm drinking, and I'm getting drunk, and I have to do this the next morning. Go down there. And I got so drunk at that place, at that bar, that I called my recruiter, and I said, I ain't fucking going. And I hung up. Because I knew what I was intending on doing that night. I left there, and I went straight to the bar. It was my first time back at that bar since I lost my job there. Went back to that bar, and one of the girls that filed the complaint was there, who happened to be the bar manager at the time. And I saw her, and it was a random Wednesday or something. I don't remember what day it was. It was a random weekday, I think. And I sat down at the bar, and I was by myself, and she was over there with some other person. It was just her and another person. The bar was empty. And I'm just drinking. And I'm just getting more drunk. And then my ex-girlfriend at the point, now at this time, she shows up, and then she goes straight over to that person that helped get me fired, basically. Is how I perceived it. And they kind of got into it. And then I just remember putting my fingers up and flipping her off. And she kicked me out of that thing so quickly. So I got in my car, and I left to drive to my house. And me and the ex-girlfriend tried chasing after me, or running after me, or trying to stop me from driving, because I shouldn't have been driving, because I was beyond the obliterated, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I drove home. Somehow I managed to park my car in my skinny ass garage. I don't know how I didn't scrape the shit on my car, but I got in there, and I went upstairs. I shut the garage door, and I can remember this, but there's a lot of things that are erased from my memory now. So I remember I turned on all the lights in my house, and I left the front door open, because I didn't want to be there. I didn't want to rot. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Sounds really
You
morbid.
want to be found easy.
Absolutely. So
You're doing a great job.
So I remember I purposely had left the twine for my Christmas tree on the front porch, because I knew I was going to use it eventually. So from Christmas, I held on to that twine, until the 23rd, outside on the front porch. And I went downstairs to my basement, and mind you, I'm fucking shit-faced, right? But coherent enough to do what I did. And I wrapped the twine. I just remember wrapping it around the big old rafter. And I had a little step stool that I sat on, or I stood on, and I don't know, and this bothers me to this day. I don't know if like I heard her come and then I did it, or if I did it before she got it. I don't know. But I did not
Okay.
know that my ex-girlfriend followed me home. I had no idea. But apparently she followed me home from the bar. She stopped to get
Okay.
gas. She was going to turn around and go home, but something was telling her to follow me. Okay? So she ended up coming to the house, and I don't know if I heard her and then I did it real quick, or if I like did it before she got there. I really don't
Okay.
know that part, and I wish I did. But I guess I did it, and she found me, and she lifted me up from, I guess, from my feet, and apparently I had, urinated on myself and whatnot, and she was able to somehow get the rope around my neck and lay me down on the ground, and she called the police. And I guess I was unconscious, but I was breathing, but it was very shallow breath, so like I was barely alive.
Okay.
And come to find out that, and this is kind of bothersome, but my old battle buddy from when I was in the police academy was a responding officer.
Wow.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So my police academy buddy, who like literally like we boxed together, we were like each other because we were equally matched. She was my responding officer. Can you imagine, like,
Yeah.
walking in and seeing that? Can you imagine my girlfriend seeing that?
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing to me that even in this moment of sharing it and feeling all those feelings again as you're sharing it, your initial response is caring about somebody else's feelings and how they found you. Don't ever
Well
question your
said.
heart. Don't ever question your heart. You have a big fucking heart. Don't ever question it.
Yeah. So, yeah. Well, and that's all I cared about because and plus I didn't want to leave a mess for anybody,
Right.
So like, and I wanted it to be as easy as possible. And, but yeah, so,
If only you can love yourself that way.
but
Mm-hmm.
so I guess they got me there, or they took the ambulance to St. Anthony's, and I guess I was in the ICU. And actually, I have my medical records. I keep this for some reason, but
Keep
I
it.
was
Keep it as a
in
reminder. Put it
absolutely.
up on your wall as a trophy. You survived a shit creek. You got out of it. You never want to go back to that
Yeah.
place. You never want to feel that way
Yeah.
again.
Yeah, but I was in the ICU, I guess, I think 2 days, and then from there they sent me to the loony bin. Well, I wouldn't say loony bin, but whatever
Psych
mental
eval.
health hype. There we go.
Yeah.
So I remember when I woke up, obviously because I was shit tank. I don't remember anything. Obviously, they cut the circulation off. They don't know how long I was out for, but my BAC level, I don't know if it's on here. My BAC level was just through the roof, like just like
Z shouldn't have been there.
absolutely. It was real bad. I remember I woke up and my neck was real itchy. And I kept like peeling shit. I had no idea what happened to me. Apparently, from what people said that visited me, because I guess word got out and all of my friends were there. I guess my waiting room was packed full for the days that I was there. My girlfriend, I had to call my parents, and my family's all 5 hours away from here, right? They all had to get in the car together. So my dad, my brother, my mom, and my stepmom, in the same car. And drove up here because they didn't know if I was going to live or if I was going to be brain dead. So they showed up, and I woke up, and I remember waking up and having an itchy neck. And apparently I was telling people that I got hit by a taxi cab because I heard one of our officers who just got hit by a taxi cab. He was telling me a story about it. Do you remember?
And I know
No?
which one you're talking. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess he got hit by, I don't know. So I guess maybe I thought that I was still working with Webster and I was the one that got hit by a taxi cab. I don't know. Your brain apparently does some weird, stupid shit. But apparently that's what I was telling everybody. Like, what happened to me? Obviously, everybody knows the truth, but I didn't. And they just kept telling me, don't touch your neck. Don't touch your neck. And I just remember, like I said, everybody coming in and people coming in and, talking to me. And then I remember I really had to shit really bad, but I didn't want to shit in this like they
In the
made
little,
they made me try
yeah,
to sit in the bedpan, and I'm like, I ain't fucking shitting. Nope.
how do you do that? Like,
I
I still don't understand it because, like, how do you poop laying down? And then, so what are you supposed to do? Sit up in the bed and just be like, "Hey, everybody, it's happening."
well,
You know, like,
it was liquid shit, so it wouldn't have mattered. You know what I mean? But I demanded. Apparently, I was a real bad fall risk, so they didn't want me to get up out of bed to shit on an actual like mode. But I
yeah,
demanded it, so I was fighting them with that. I was fighting them with apparently I was pierced everywhere,
yeah,
like they were trying to get me to undo my piercing so they could do CT scans and X-rays and all this stuff, and I'm fighting them tooth and nail for that, like. And my best
yeah,
friend had to come in there and try to convince me to take it out for apparently I was just the worst patient ever.
yeah.
But I
I'm
remember
with you. I'm with you. I turned into that person, and it's because you're like, I don't want to get better. Like in my mind, I was like, I don't want to get better. Let me out of here. My body, my choice. Like, I'll do my life, you do yours. Like I was just so toxic. And
but
yeah,
still at that point I didn't know what the fuck happened.
right,
And I
right.
was so medicated. No, I had no idea. So I got released out of there and put into the loony bin. And I tell you what, I have never felt so sane in my life. And I'm like, what do you guys got me in here for? I will never do whatever it was that I did again. Like, because they stuck me in this room with this lady that kept stealing my shit. Somebody gave me a book to read while I was there and some other stuff. And I wake up and shit's gone. And I demanded to sleep in the padded room. They wouldn't give me a razor. I have to shave. They refused to give me a razor because they thought I was going to kill myself with a razor. I'm like, I'm not going to kill myself with a fucking razor. Come on now. Like, just give me a razor. So
You,
and the
you,
food was horrible, and we had to go through all this like education stuff that I don't remember. Like, it was so pointless for me to go into that little thing. It for me because I was so medicated.
That's such a good point.
It may be good for people that are not and that are going through crisis and whatnot and need that 96-hour commitment or whatever. But for me, it was irrelevant because I just wasn't all there. And I remember when I got out, I went back to my house and I was pissed because my
Yeah.
parents and everybody were at my house sleeping in my bed. And I was mad
Mm.
about it. Like, how could you just like so stupid?
Right.
Like, why? But I still I wasn't all there. And I suffered from really bad vertigo after that because, mind you, I had circulation cut from my neck for God knows how long. I still kind of sometimes in the summertime you can still see the scar from the rope. If my neck gets tan, you can still see it. I just lost my train of thought. What I just said?
you were mad there. You got home. We were all there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's fair to say you're a little bit of an unreasonable place, not quite ready to heal yet.
Oh, vertigo.
Oh,
So I
yeah.
had really bad
Oh,
vertigo.
yeah.
I mean, it got so bad that I was like, I would stand up and I'd spin and run into walls. Like I was cutting myself, bruises everywhere, because I don't know, whatever it did, it messed up my equilibrium or something. I don't know. So I had now girlfriend, because she was my ex-girlfriend, and then I woke up and I guess we were together again in the hospital. I don't know how that happened, but she was my girlfriend and she was taking care of me for a little bit, so I demanded that she take me back to the hospital so I could figure out what the fuck's going on with me, because I was literally spinning out of control and running into walls. and they gave me this medication and said, take this when when you feel it coming on. I'm like, well, by then it's too late. So what's the point of that? And a friend of mine actually suggested that I go to this place called the Healing Arts Center in St. Louis. They do like Reiki, they do breath work, biocranial stuff. And she had leukemia, and she told me that she did something and it helped her immensely, and kind of did a pay it forward. She paid for my first appointment to go to this place.
Oh, wow.
And I went there and I talked to the guy, and it was real spiritual. You know, they do your pressure points and stuff. And they did this thing where they took the two thumbs behind my head and pushed my head all the way down to where my ear was hitting my shoulder. And whatever it did, it released the two, like, you know how your skull has got like two halves and it's got the wiggly line at the top of it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, mine was like condensed apparently. So what he did was released it. So my brain was able to kind of like move slowly, like better in there. And I shit you not, I swear to God, I haven't had vertigo since.
Wow.
Like, life-changing. And then like also the therapy that kind of came along with that, like when he was doing the pressure points, he was making me say some really hard things like love yourself and like all that types of stuff, and it was real transformative and real helpful for me in that moment. And I promised I would pay it forward again, because you know, I felt like it really did something for me, and I wanted to do it for somebody else if somebody else were in my position. But
That's so cool.
yeah.
Isn't it amazing when something that like you never believed in or like would never try, and then all of a sudden you try it and it opens this door and you're like, oh my gosh, like that really helped. And it just took trying.
Our bodies are really complex and also very simple in so many different ways. I mean, it's like hard to explain it. But he knew something at that.
Yeah.
What was it called again? We need to make sure that plug
The
keeps up.
Healing Arts Center.
The Healing Arts Center.
Yep. It's off in Worston Woods.
Okay.
It's a husband and wife who founded it, and they are amazing. And they basically teach people, you know, it's a school, so they teach people how to do massage therapy, Reiki, breath work, all that stuff. And I had since went back and I've done breath work sessions and done therapy sessions with them and a bunch of other things since then, and they're just awesome. So yeah, definitely.
What is Reiki? I don't know what Reiki is.
I really don't know how to explain it either, to be honest with you. It's just, it's,
Is
you
it a
really
pressure
have to have
pressure?
yeah, you really have to have like an open mind, but they'll just like, I don't know, tap on, I don't know. Mind you, my brain was a little jacked up back then too, so you know, like, I don't know,
It worked.
But if it works, it
That's all
works.
that matters.
yeah,
It
absolutely.
worked. You know what I mean? So maybe just because you said that, someone's going to go to that same center and seek some sort of help, and
Oh,
you know
absolutely.
that could really help.
I would 1000% recommend that for sure. After the day that I got out of the hospital, or the next day after I got out of the hospital, I legit had a PT test.
You went to the gym?
That's down in the city. Yep. I had a PT test that I had to do down at the city the day after I got out of the hospital. I rolled up to that thing with my old department turtleneck, trying to cover this. And I dominated that damn PT test. I beat everybody in it. But I didn't end up getting a job. Imagine that. Probably because they saw that. And then shortly after that, too, I had to call back because I had another appointment set up while apparently I was in the hospital. I had missed an interview with another department, and I had to call and reschedule, and I went back and did an interview with that department. Full on, you could clearly see what happened. Like, I was still not grasping, like, what really happened.
Right.
I wasn't, like, I don't know how to explain it. Like, I was embarrassed and I was ashamed, but I wasn't embarrassed and ashamed.
Right.
I remember I went back to to the bar after several months after it happened. I went back to that same freaking bar where everything horrible happens to me. And I was sitting there talking to a friend. I wasn't drinking because I had stopped drinking for a while after that.
Good.
Because obviously, you know, that was a common denominator. And this person comes up to me and she goes, "What happened to your neck?" And I straight up said, "Oh, I tried to hang myself," and then laughed it off. You know, like, I still wasn't processing it all, and how serious it was.
Would you say it's fair to say that like everyone else on the outside watched something happen?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, you were going through it, but it's like you don't have that same perspective. Like when you wake up after you've been unconscious for 2 days, it doesn't feel like 2 days. It feels like a second. You know what I mean? And they went through whatever they went through running around the hospital room in the hospital trying to figure out what they were going to do to help you. Meanwhile, you're asleep. So when you wake up, you're like, get me out of here. You know what I mean? You're like, and I get, I'm just trying to say, I think I understand what you're saying. That as you're pushing forward, you don't have that view of what happened.
Right.
Everyone else is kind of putting you in that cylinder, that box, you know, but you're like, I don't know what the fuck happened. I just woke up. So get out of my face.
Well, at that point, I knew what I did. I knew what happened because I was before I did it. Before that happened, like the actual suicide attempt, I had known that I was going to do it because I had done a test run with different material before. It was just a matter of what day was going to push me over the edge. And that day happened to be the day that pushed me over the edge. When that girl kicked me out of the bar and I flipped my fucking fingers, that was the turning point. When she kicked me out of that bar, that was my turning point. All right, today's the day. This is when I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And I didn't think about anybody else at that point other than me just wanting to be done with this life.
Yep.
But looking back, it's like, you know, like I said earlier, it's like, man, the hurt that I put people through, you know, like I said, my ex-girlfriend has to live with that. I'm sure we'll never forget that. That's going to be PTSD for her for the rest of her life. My old battle buddy, seeing that, I'm sure that's ingrained. My family having to come up here, like, that's horrible. We still haven't really spoken about what happened. I have not told my story to my family in all period, to be honest with you. So if they do hear this will be the first time for them and how my feelings and why I did it. Like, the real reason behind me really doing it is because of the fear of disappointing my dad. Like, I could not come to terms with admitting that I fucked up and I can't find a job. And that was, like, devastating. So it just being disappointing him. And we're, like I said, we're not even that, well, we are a lot closer now, but we weren't really that close. So, yeah.
Well, maybe they'll get to hear it and get your side from this video. Maybe they need closure. Maybe they don't need closure. I don't know. There's no way to really say what's the right answer on those regards. Everybody deals with things a little differently in the traumas and stuff. But you're right. It does affect everybody. But control what you can control. If they come to you and ask about it, stay in the point of being honest and loving yourself and loving who you are now after the story, that you can talk about it with them if they come and ask you. And if they don't ever come and ask you, maybe they don't need to have any more talk about it. Be okay with that too. Just be okay with you inside first. Get yourself right there and keep trying to focus on positives.
Why do you think it is we give other people so much power in our lives? Because I know I'm so guilty of that. And they don't have to even say it. I'm thinking it for them
Yeah.
already. And then I'm having real emotions about what's happening. I don't know why I do that. It's like giving away your power. You know what I mean? It's like wanting someone else to tell you that you're okay. Why do I need someone to do that? Like, it's fucking crazy. You know what I mean? So you run in circles trying to figure it out. And I'm starting to figure out that's just like the human condition.
Yeah, we're just wired that way.
You know, and I find I ever since, like, everything, like, even to this day, like, now, like, I'm so much different. Before I got into law enforcement, I was a whole different person than what I was afterwards. Like, If I could look back, I wish that I would have never gotten into law enforcement because it's really changed my whole personality. I didn't have all the stress, the anxiety that I carry now, the PTSD that I carry, like just a lot of things from just being in law enforcement. I don't know.
And I think that you just touched on something that like not a lot of people understand that like what you did, Randy, is you came, what am I trying to say? You offered yourself as a means for the public to be safe. You offer, you sat almost in a way, you're like, I'm going to cross this line. I'm going to sacrifice myself so that other people can be safer, so that, we can follow through on this. And it's just tough. I kind of lost where I was going with that. But it's like in law enforcement, another thing I wanted to say earlier was like, it's so hard to get into, you know, that eventually you get picked and then you get pulled into a department on probation, so they kind of hold your future there. So you kind of like fall in line. You don't do a lot of stuff. You just stay in the middle of the boat. You kind of figure out what's going on. And unfortunately, you start seeing things that you wish weren't there. You're like, how is it? It was so hard to get into law enforcement, but now, the people within the boat of law enforcement, some of them are fucking assholes, and you're like, how? And so you get there and you get to law enforcement, but I just remember what I was trying to say before, and I'll edit all this a little bit, but um, like the sacrifice that you made is appreciated. Thank you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you did make a sacrifice. Like you sacrificed. How many people step on the line and sacrifice? You know what I mean? You got into the arena. Everyone else is in the spectator seats talking about what other people are doing most of the time, right? You actually got out there, you were working, you enjoyed what you were doing, you sacrificed yourself, and that's what people in law enforcement do. And not a lot of people realize it. It slices a piece off you when you see some of the stuff you see.
Yeah.
Like if you see a dead kid, that slices a piece off of you. If you see a person who died in a car accident, that slices a piece off of you. If you see a person lie straight to your face, or you believe they're telling the truth straight to your face, and then all of a sudden 1 second later they're assaulting you, it changes you. You know what I mean? It slices a bit off of you, and you start kind of changing. You're like, all right, well now I'm not going to sit with my back to the door. Now I'm not going to put myself in this situation. Now I'm not, and so you're sacrificing yourself because you're spending 90% of yourself. This is what they say in the academy: 90% of your time is going to be spent with the bottom 10% of society.
Wow.
So that skews you. If you're in that environment all the time where people are hurting one another, it does, for me at least. I
Yeah.
was like, shit, this world is way more messed up than I thought. Because you're seeing
Change you.
everybody's worst day. Yeah, you're seeing everybody's worst day. And then you're being told to code it, write a report, move on. You know what I mean? There's no training on how to process how to talk to a woman after a guy put his head on the railroad tracks and cut his own head off. You know what I mean? There is no training on how to be the best person there for yourself and your family. It's all about how are we doing the report, write the report, move on to the next one. And it's just kind of like the way it's been. I think a lot of times police officers like I I suffered from it for a long time. I'm like, I don't have the right to say, I did anything. I fucked everything up after I got shot. I drank myself nearly to death. I'm a loser. I'm all these kinds of things. And like, after a while, I had to say, like, fuck that. Like, I got to keep going. And I'm putting too much of my power in other people's opinion that I'm making up on the spot for them.
Mhm.
I think I just went on a bit of a rant there. But
You're okay. No, it's
long
perfect.
story short, it's like the power that we give others, even to start improving on ourselves. Like, should I really start meditating? Like, well, what will people think? Well, we'll like my dad's gonna think it's stupid or like something like that. But then you just choose to do it because you pick yourself instead of the other opinions that you're formulating for them, and then it works. Like Randy, you shared something that like you never would have shared unless it worked, and that's literally your head went down to the left, you cracked your freaking neck, opened, you said the back of the base of your brain up to create space for you, and you're better off for it.
Well, temporarily.
Yeah.
Let's just say that.
Well,
So,
yeah. I mean, it's a catalyst. I mean,
yeah,
it's a way
absolutely.
to be like, all right, here we go.
Yeah, I mean,
No, I was just say, like, back to what you were saying before, you give everybody the weight and the power of having some opinions over your life and your directions. And it's because, I mean, the cliches of focus on positive, positive will come out. You have good memory from being a cop. You have good stories of where you helped somebody. Focus on those and think about those, reflect on those, and you'll have a more positive outlook of your time as being a police officer, even though it was cut short. If you only focus on the negative parts of it, that's all you're going to be thinking about is negative parts of it, and then your ego will get in the way of it, and you won't ever heal or learn, and you won't ever become better. Remember
Here's
that
the
you've helped
problem.
somebody. You've helped somebody. Put a pin in that.
My
Hold on to that. Help yourself too. Put a pin in that. Hold on to it. And just keep going positive and positive. And I'm 100% good at giving advice and not taking it, but it's the truth. It really is. Just have hope, peace, and love and spread that. Remember it from the past, even though you made mistakes. Trauma is saying I did something wrong. A healing from the trauma is saying I made the best decisions I could with the information I had available to me at the time. And I know I could do better next time when I go through something similar. You know?
I like that. That is good. Another angle for that is like, what would you say to a person right now going through the struggle you were going through?
Yeah.
Would you get in their face and be like, "You're a terrible person, and you're a failure, and you're about"? You'd be like, "No, I got you. I've been through this. I've seen what you're seeing right now, and the storm that's in your head is not actually what's going on in the real world."
That dark cloud will eventually lift. I still had to go through a little bit more after that whole suicide attempt before I finally was able to like take a grasp on my life. Like I had to go through getting 2 DWIs after
Oh, wow.
that suicide attempt. Yeah, by the same officer. Back to back, a month apart from each other, almost a year after. You know, dude. So that was my turning point. So I lost my job, attempted suicide, had 2 DWIs back to back by the same freaking officer
Okay.
within a short period of time, that year span. Like, it was rough, and it took me going to SATOP because that was my mandatory. I ended up, having to do a weekend intervention program in SATOP, and where they actually physically made me write down how much money I have spent thus far on attorney fees, alcohol, and then write down like every major event that ever happened in my life that was negative.
Mm-hmm.
The common factor was alcohol.
Right.
It was like when you physically write it down and you see it, it was like, holy shit. Like,
Mm-hmm.
wow. Like,
That's when the
I
light
need to
bulb went
take
off and you
control.
understood it. People tried to
Absolutely.
tell you and explain it to you, but they couldn't understand it for you. But once you got to that point, bam, the light bulb goes off and now you understand.
Well, and then I didn't think I was an alcoholic because I only drank on the weekends. Like, I don't
Right.
like the taste of alcohol. I only drank on the weekends. Like, I partied on the weekends. Like, that's normal. Like, in my head. But the way SATOP or the way they explain that and that is like, no, if you've been blacked out drunk, you're technically called an alcoholic. Like, it was kind of weird, but, it really opened things up. So it's like I needed to have all those experiences and all those stops, those traffic stops, and
Yep.
the Halloween to happen, and then my suicide attempt to happen, and these 2 DWIs to happen for me to finally like take control of my life and
Yeah.
choose me over alcohol. And I still, I don't no longer drink and drive anymore.
Good.
did learn that. I tell you what, I'd rather pay a $100 Uber fee versus paying $30,000 in attorney fees and all together over the course of the whole DWI situation. Because
Right.
that is life changing. But
So that was like your aha moment. Like when you got the second DWI, you were like, "I got to do something." Or is that what you're saying?
I mean, kind of. I mean,
Yeah.
after the SATOP, and I was able to write it down. Absolutely, that's when I realized, yes, that I do have a problem. It didn't completely stop me from drinking. At that point in time, like I would still, have, social. I realized how to social drink, like one drink with dinner or something like that.
Yeah.
But what saved me, besides that SATOP and going through that DWI thing, was me getting into a relationship with somebody who had a child. And then I had that responsibility for 4 years of raising a child.
Yeah.
And if I didn't have that, if that person didn't come into my life during the period of time that I had, I probably would not be here today, honestly.
Okay.
It
But I
matured
had
you.
that responsibility. It 100% matured me. And I had that responsibility. And then even after that relationship died, like, I was able to process things a lot better and realize that, you know what, okay, yeah, that sucks to go through a breakup, but nothing will be ever as bad as what it was the night I hung myself. I could never get back to that level, ever again. It will get better. You know, I was fortunate enough, and thank God, I mean, I can't thank her enough for finding me, you know,
Mhm.
like, to give me that opportunity to learn and grow and move forward. Because, you know, I would have been done at 26, you know, because I was 25. Well, I would have been done at 25 because I was only 25 when I attempted suicide.
Wow.
Yeah, very young.
And when you look at a 25-year-old now, I mean, for me, I'm like, you're a baby. Like, you
Mm-hmm.
don't even know what you're doing.
I have a
Yeah.
friend of mine right now who actually I just got her a position at my job, you know, trying to help her out because she is 30 years old, still living at her house. Her family never had a real big job, and
Mhm.
she is kind of going down the rabbit path, or the rabbit hole that I went down. She spends all of her time at the bar, and she's around these people that are her temporary bar friends, which is what I found out, what I realized after everything that went down with me. I found out real quick who my friends were.
Yeah.
Yep.
And those people that were in the hospital, like, yeah, like I still talk to them. Like well, most of them, I shall say. But like, those are the people that have your back, that will always be there. And that's what I wanted. I wanted to prevent her from doing, and I'm trying to educate her and trying to like, hey, like,
Right.
don't do this because you're gonna fuck up your life. And I promise you, like,
It's not worth it.
but you know, everybody's got to go through it themselves,
Mm-hmm.
and she's gonna have to fall before she's gonna have to hit her rock bottom before she can move forward. And I hope that like she doesn't have to hit that rock bottom and she can realize it. But I think she's gonna be one of them.
Hope it's a softer
That's
fall.
gonna happen 1,000%, 100%. So I don't know.
Well,
So do you feel like you kind of come full circle here, where
yeah.
at one time you were that person, and then now you're coaching those people?
Yeah, you know, I was a total douche rocket, and I am still, you know, I am still same old me, the way you guys knew me from the department. You know, I'm still trying to adjust to the corporate lifestyle because now I work for a corporate, an actual job, like not like the good
Yeah.
old boys club. And, you know, trying to learn how to tone that down is really difficult for me, but I am still who I am, and I am trying to, yeah, be the better person, to be kind of like the mentor for somebody else because,
Paying it
you know,
forward.
yeah. And that's another thing. I was able to pay that forward for, you know, what my friend did for me with the break. I was able to pay somebody forward that was going through some tough anxiety times and was able to help her out.
You
So
pay for her first session?
yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
cool. That's cool. Well, you're also
And I
paying it
asked
forward
her,
right now today, talking. You're paying it forward
yeah,
right now. Somebody's going to hear this,
yeah.
and it could help
It
them.
was probably, it wasn't the best transition on how to explain my story, but like, I go on little tangents here, but like, there's a lot involved into it, and there's still more that I could, you know, discuss about, like,
But then we're just focusing on the negative parts of the story, and that's just
exactly.
going to snowball into a negative place. So it's important to address them. It's important to bring it up because otherwise it doesn't give the story enough validity. So you want to give the story validity and talk about how negative it was and how bad it got, but you don't want to focus on it.
One question I wanted to ask you guys, because I've always wondered this over the years, because again, this is the first time that we've spoken.
Yes, I'm circumcised.
Really, yeah. Oh, gross. Ugh.
I knew you wanted to ask me that. You've been dying to ask me.
And I don't remember, and I do somewhere I still have like all the cards and stuff from everybody at the hospital because I did keep all that. But I knew that, I was really disappointed after that I found out my sergeant didn't show up in support, out of everybody. And from what I understand was that, obviously he was brown nosing trying to become a chief, which ultimately he didn't end up doing. But, so he was playing that game and didn't want to look bad and have me, on basically his resume, which I totally understand. But do you guys know of, were you guys instructed not to show up? I know you guys can show up in your uniforms, or
No,
from what I understood.
no. I mean, word got around that it happened, and then a couple of us. I know, who was it? Oh, one of the older guys that knew you pretty well. I don't want to say names just in case, but
Yeah.
yeah, they knew what hospital and stuff. I'm like, well, will you tell me? Because I kind of feel the urge to go visit, just out of the human side of me, type of thing. But nobody, there wasn't any judgment going around. Nobody was saying this. Nobody, because in a moment like that, it doesn't matter why. You were hurting and you did something to yourself, and something inside of me, I can't speak for everybody, but something inside of me said, go visit her and let her know that you care. But remember that everybody responds to these things differently too. So because somebody doesn't show up and it hurts your feelings that they didn't show up and it makes you feel like they didn't care. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they never did. I mean, that's also possibilities. But maybe they do and they just don't know how to show it or how to express it. So don't. I almost said don't get hung up on that. And that'd probably be kind of a bad joke to say, huh? No, don't. Again, don't focus on the negatives too much.
Yeah. Well, it was
Get comfortable.
I guess really wanted to know what was said, I guess, around the department, what happened, and if you guys were instructed to not visit me.
I wasn't. Nobody ever told me anything, but I've never really was the kind of go-to kind of person that people came to talk about stuff either. So I don't like playing with the he said, she said, rumor mills type of stuff. I mean.
Well, I was on your shift when it happened, or maybe I just shifted over to COP or something like that. I can't remember. It was on the shift. Okay, so I think we were told what happened by the sergeant. I think it was a small meeting when it happened. It was probably, beginning of shift meeting. I came to the hospital personally with Kate, and I know that other officers went to go see you as well. But it really seemed like it wasn't as, what am I trying to say? Because I felt it too when it happened to me. It felt like there was a barrier placed. Do you know what I mean? Like she's going through this and we're staying here. You know what I mean? It was like that kind of feel. Like we still have to do our shift and like all that kind of stuff. That's such.
You think you put that barrier there yourself a little bit though, in some regards?
Yeah.
Just because you're already in a negative place, and that negativity just echoes that everything must be negative if it doesn't go the way you thought it was going to go, or something like that.
It's also startling it's startling when you're in a work environment and a person who was in that work environment with you, especially if you're dealing with life and death. You know what I mean? Like we backed each other up and all that kind of stuff, and like it really is like a family because you are depending on one another and all that kind of stuff. And then suddenly something happens to one of you. And it suddenly becomes very apparent you're at work. It becomes very apparent. Oh, this wasn't. No, I think I felt that when you were going through what you were going through. I think anytime anyone in the department was going through something, there'd be like a quick rumor mill, like, oh, this is happening. But then like that would always be handled behind closed doors. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Right.
Because there's other people, would get in trouble for this or that, or, there was just issues and all that kind of stuff. And they just made it. They were very good at isolating that person, putting the pressure on them, not getting them resources for help, that maybe they should have had. And then, coaxing the person to believe that what they're doing is in their best interest too.
Yeah.
It becomes very like corporate in that moment. All of a sudden HR is in the room.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, I didn't even know our family had HR. You know what I mean? Like I've been running after you, you've been running after me. We laugh, spit, cuss, bleed together, whatever it is. Now we've got someone telling us what we can and can't say. You know what I mean? So it's like it gets awkward and it gets blurred. Did that make any sense to you? It becomes work all of a sudden.
Yeah, yeah.
It just becomes work.
And I mean,
And you're like,
I went to the hospital a couple of times from some injuries, and I know some people who came to visit. When the kid folded my knee back one time, something like that. And I don't know. I've always been in the place like I don't want people to see me in the hospital. I don't want visitors. I don't know if that's me being selfish. I don't want you to see me that way. But like I hate going to hospitals, and so when I have to, I will for somebody to try to show some support. But I mean, I'm on edge. I'm nervous. I don't like it, and I'm also I don't know. Maybe it's the military. Maybe it's just my personality. Maybe I've been through enough and come through enough that I've gotten to the point where I can be comfortable by myself. I don't need you. I don't need your
I prefer
affirmations.
myself.
I don't need your affirmations. I don't need your negativity. I don't need anything from you. I'm going to get through this. I can get through this all on my own, whatever it is.
No, that's what I thought
I
too.
don't know. That's the
That definitely
greatest.
could work.
That may not be the greatest place to be at, but I mean, at least I'm not. I mean, I still give people too much power over my happiness and stuff. Um, some of that's just hardwired in you, and it's going to be there. But when I get down to the brass tacks, I can coax myself through something and be like, no, I'd rather do this on my own. I don't recommend
It
it.
takes a minute to.
I don't recommend that to everybody though, because we're also communal humans. We like having people around us. That's where your happiest memories come. We're telling jokes and stuff, and hanging out and making memories and things like that. So we need people around too, but I don't know, get to a point where you can be comfortable by yourself as well, and their approval or their disapproval isn't going to affect you. You're going to make your decisions. You're going to live your life. You're going to be happy, and you're going to try to positively affect the society around you. Be a good contributor to society with love, with actions, with whatever. And Ralph Waldo Emerson had a really good quote about success, and I just know the ending of it was like, leave the world a better place, whether it's by a redeemed social condition or a garden. Then you found, whatever. Just find some peace, live in peace, share peace, find love, love yourself, love your friends that love you back, and try to give love to strangers too. You know what they're going through. They're going through something on their own. That's why road rage happens so easily to all of us. I mean, I'm guilty of that. I know, because in that moment, it feels personal. You cut me off. How dare you cut me off? And they probably didn't even notice they did it. That's a really simple.
I also got to
but
like I have to accept too that like I am a screw up.
yeah,
Like I think for too long I just wanted to be like perfect, you know what I mean? And like look this way and like kind of blend in this way and all that kind of
so
stuff.
you
And
build up that
in
mask.
doing that,
This is who I am
yeah,
when
and
I'm
so
around everybody, but this is who I am when I'm by myself. And it's okay to have two different faces, I would say, but they should be closer
it's
together.
too hard
They
though.
should be close together.
Yeah.
They don't need to be separate, complete opposites. That's where
Yeah.
more trouble would happen.
Because I do something that's so hypocritical. I expect people to show up in my life the way that I think I would show up for them. I don't think I show up for people in my life very well.
Well, you're still your own worst critic.
Do you get what I'm saying? Yeah, I guess I'm still the worst critic, but it's like
Why are you so
I
hard
get
on yourself?
mad at other. Well, I don't know.
What's an example?
Like in law enforcement, um, like the chief never showed up or contacted me after I got shot. And I had issues with that. And, I was upset about it. But if I don't know what he was, that's not a good example. That's not a good example at all. What am I trying to say? Like, I will look at a situation and be like, if I were you, this is what I would have done. It's very clear. One, two, three. Quit being an idiot. You know what I mean? But then, like in my own personal life, if I know I need to do one, two, three, sometimes I'll find reasons not to do one, two, three. And so I'm being a hypocrite in that. You know what I mean? Like I'm saying that like you should be helping me in this way, but then when I'm in a position to help you in that way, I find reasons sometimes not to do it. Do you get what I mean? So I crucify the people who didn't show up because they may have had reasons not to do it because I believe there was no reason to do it if I were the one in your situation. But if it switches, you know what I mean? I'm very aware that there's other variables in play. It's not as clear as I need to help Cameron. You know what I mean? Like it's like I find myself believe that it's even hard to say.
You're not perfect.
But I find
It's
myself
okay.
the more I admit that I don't know and I'm an idiot and being kind to myself in a way and being like, well, that's not so bad. the better I am at like showing up in the world.
Yeah. Well, what was that quote?
Because if I already
What was that quote I shared just
know, but
last?
now I'm back.
No, what was that quote I shared last week? That one about like if you know what you want to be and you know what you want to know, you will achieve that, and that'll be your punishment. But if you wake up every day unsure of who you are and what you know, then you will become nothing, and that will be your reward. You gotta say that a couple times to yourself, because when you say you become nothing, you want to feel like that's a negative thing. But you won't become anything negative. You won't be pigeonholed into one concept. Your ego won't, that's what our ego does. We were police officers. Now I can't do another job because I'm only a police officer. I can't demean myself by becoming a security guard. Well, what point is that? You need to be open to
It's
change.
super hard.
You need to be open to more information. The more you know that you don't know anything, the more you'll be able to learn from other people, the more you'll be open to other ideas, other perspectives, other sides of the coin, other sides of the 360.
It's also
You're an
funny how
idiot.
we're near that.
You're not perfect. You're going to make mistakes. You are going to be hypocritical. Everybody is. I am. You are. Randy is. Anybody listening are. We all make mistakes. We get angry too quick. We'll have our ego get too high up. We'll let our pride affect us too much. We'll cuss at somebody. We'll let anger win instead of love winning and understanding somebody even with a different perspective than us, or understanding somebody who might do something different than we would do. Be open to the idea that if they're doing it with good intentions and out of love, be accepting to it. Now, if they're doing it out of hate and they're going to try to hurt you or your family, you don't have to love them and let them into your house. I get that. But you know what I'm saying? Be open to the idea that you don't know everything and you need to learn more. Be open to the idea that you're going to make mistakes. Be open to the idea that that's okay.
Yeah. Then why do I have so much trouble forgiving other people?
Now, I don't know. You're letting your ego
You're supposed to
you're letting
fix
your
it.
ego stick too much up there.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I don't know. Life is so silly and also so simple. You know what I mean? Like the richest man is the one who has, love around him compared to the one who has all the possessions in the world. That's clear. Right now, someone is out there in their own shit creek, and you've been in that exact same seat where you had to decide to keep pressing on or to possibly give up. What would you say to that person who's in their creek right now?
So the one thing that I would do differently is reach out, because I didn't basically kind of like battle that myself, like because I was embarrassed, I was ashamed, and again, I just so I didn't reach out to anybody and kind of wallowed in my own pity and tried to dig myself out of the hole, but I couldn't. So if I would have just reached out and asked for help, things probably would have went a lot different.
Yeah.
But again, like I said, I really needed to go through that to be where I'm at today, because I am a whole different person than what I was. I'm a lot better person. I recognize my douchebaggery, and I strive to be better than I was, because I was not a good person. I was doing some really stupid shit, being the biggest hypocrite there possibly was. When I'm out here trying to enforce the law, I'm breaking it. Like, I just try to be better, and I really advocate for mental health, because it is so important. Like, I think everybody ought to go and have a therapist and talk to somebody to have an outside perspective, because everything that I went through in being in law enforcement and everything has really affected every relationship I've ever been in, because, I've got that stern, whatever. I'm very untrustworthy of people because I'm always afraid that somebody's going to screw me over. And I'm like, it's just really changed me. And I would suggest 1,000% somebody to go and seek treatment, whether it's through EAP, which has been a lifesaver for me in every position that I've ever had since my law enforcement career. Every job has offered the employee assistance program, and the therapist, if you find the good therapist, they will work that out, so you don't ever really have to pay. So I never had to pay for therapy because I used my therapy sessions, because they would always be like, okay, here's 6 therapy sessions for anxiety. Well, here you're going through a divorce. Here's 6 therapy sessions here. You have depression, 6 sessions. So it'll just continue to go through. So learn how to use the system and use it to your advantage. And it is so important. And I would just suggest anybody to do that because
I
you do need
totally
that.
agree with you.
Yeah.
You need that third party, somebody unbiased opinion, unbiased.
100%.
Yeah, no, where you feel there's no judgment.
Right.
You know, because if
Absolutely.
you go talk to your friends, yeah, they're going to judge you. They're going to say, "Oh, don't do that." Like, I wouldn't do that. Like, well, I guess the therapist will do it too, but it's different.
Yeah. Well, the
You know,
stigma.
because it's
of it.
coming
The
from your
stigma of it's
friends.
different.
Like, you never want to take criticism or advice from the people you love. You know, it's easier to hear something you're doing is wrong from somebody that's completely outside of your circle. You know, they're
Yeah.
just like, oh, well, shit. Since they see it, maybe I do have a problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you can speak your crazy to a third person, and then what happens is like 50% of the time you hear it yourself. You're like, whoa, never mind. Like that sounded a little over the top. Let's reel that back in. And the therapist is getting paid just to nod and go,
Yeah. Oh,
mhm.
1000. So yeah, I would suggest that. I would suggest, taking advantage, even like I said, that Healing Arts Center, they have things, because they're teaching people, they're teaching, their students how to do massage therapy, do the breath work, do all these, different things. So they need like
Yeah.
test subjects to work on. So they give you free sessions. You just have to go on their website and sign up for these sessions to experience that. Yeah, you're getting it from a student who's learning, but you're still reaping some benefit, even though it's not like something that is like, perfect, what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I found that to be incredibly helpful, especially breathing. Who knew that you really have to learn how to breathe? Like, I didn't know that, like, this is going to sound really
I know what
stupid.
you're saying. I know.
But when I was going through these breath work sessions, they'd be sitting there and they'd talk me through, and they would tell you, inhale, exhale, inhale, like exhale. And you're just going
Yeah.
through that and you're breathing. And the next thing you know, you feel the oxygen just going up your whole body. And it just opens everything up. And then all of a sudden, you just break down. And it's like, oh, release.
Wow.
It's so intense. I don't know how to explain it. You guys should look it up. Look up breath work, whatever, and what comes out of that. Like, it's amazing. But you can definitely do that for free by going to that session. You just sign up for the session and kind of be the test dummy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's also apps you can download that help, you know what I mean, with getting into the meditation. Sometimes it takes a minute to get like your head in the right space, you know what I mean, to like prepare yourself, if you will, or get used to being into it. And that's so cool that you realize that those resources are all around you, and you could reach out to them.
Yeah, and the other thing that really helped me, kept me sane, it was obviously having a dog, and I really, well, I was always into fitness and running and stuff, but I really took to fitness and running. I mean, it's trail running for miles. And I would just put in my headphones and I'd have my dog and we would just go. And there is no better therapy than having all that free like time to just be in your own thoughts and speak to yourself. And that was always my release.
Yeah.
For sure. You know what's funny about the breathwork thing is like I was so ignorant to breathwork that like I thought like you think you know how to breathe, like you were just mentioning, and then it tells you like how to breathe. And so my breaths I found out were very small. They were like and like I'm like having to stretch them out just a little bit, and then like just like you said, it sort of just starts opening stuff up, and you're like you don't even realize you weren't relaxed. You think you're relaxed, but you're not, and then you figure out how to get there.
Yeah,
That's so
used to being that uncomfortable that you feel comfortable.
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah.
You breathe from that lower gut, like, which sounds so weird. Like, how do you breathe from your gut? But that's, when you learn how to do it, that's where your good breath comes, and that's how, the oxygen flows. I need to do that again, to be honest with you, and I need to go back to therapy because I haven't been to therapy since really my divorce, which so when I moved to Florida, I had to switch things up, and I couldn't get into my original therapist that was freaking awesome. And it's so hard to find a therapist that you vibe with, and I just haven't put in the work to do it. But this might actually push me, now to be like, you know what, I still have clearly some unresolved stuff. I mean, for me to get upset and to relive that, I still have things that I need to work through with it. So, I'll probably end up using EAP and going back through that process and getting back to another therapy session, because I'm not going through anything crazy right now, but like, it's just good.
You're staying on top of it.
Absolutely.
You're taking a couple steps in the right direction before you get too far behind. That's good that you're recognizing it and you're doing and you're making the actions. That's a win, baby. That's a win. Celebrate that win. And if
Well,
you fall
thank you for
short
being so.
of getting anything set up, you have my number. Still call me. I have 2 good ears. I'm great at listening. Okay. Go ahead, Cameron. I'm
Same
sorry.
here. Same here. And it's been so great catching up. Thank you so much for coming on here and sharing your story, because it is going to help people. I hope that it helped you, because I know by sharing my story, it kind of helped me resolve some things. And like you were just saying, realize, oh, there's maybe a little bit more to unpack here.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being with us. To all of you out there, please check out the website, www.shitcreeksurvivors.com. Follow us on social media at Facebook and Instagram, SHT Creek Survivors, on YouTube and Spotify. Listen to us at Shit Creek Survivors. The shit is spelled SH exclamation point T. Yeah, please like and subscribe. The more you like and subscribe on YouTube and Spotify, the further the podcast will go and the more people will be able to have. You can follow me personally on Facebook at Cameron.mckay.368 on Facebook and Instagram. And you can send us your stories, your Shit Creek stories that you would like to share, or a story that you know that you would like to be shared, to shitcreekpodcast@gmail.com. Dennis, thank you.
Thank you,
Randy, thank you so much.
Randy.
You're
Thank you.
amazing. I love you both, and I think this is a super positive thing that we did today. I think it's going to be amazing for whoever gets to hear it.
Agreed.
You guys are awesome.
Thank you for doing that, Randy. I'm proud of you.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it. Thank you for giving me the platform. Like I said, if you didn't share your story, I probably wouldn't be sharing mine. You gave me, like I said, you gave me the kind of the boost that I needed and the confidence I needed to, to get this out there, because I have wanted to do this for quite some time and tell my truth, and, but I
Feels
just
good.
haven't had the platform.
Yeah, it helps just to get it out there. Be like, this is what it was. You know what I mean? It's good for you. And then all of a sudden you're like, I don't care as much about other people. I feel bad. So y'all can eat it.